Welcome to How to Split a Toaster, a divorce podcast about saving your relationships from True Story FM. Today, you've got to stop traumatizing your toaster.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Seth Nelson. As always, I'm here with my good friend Pete Wright. Today, we're tackling one of the toughest challenges of any divorce: how to protect your kids from trauma when your marriage ends. Our guest is Dr. Larry Waldman, a psychologist, professor, speaker, and author with over 4 decades of clinical experience helping families navigate divorce. He's here to share real strategies for staying grounded, staying focused, and most importantly, staying present for your children when everything else is shifting. Dr. Waldman, welcome to the toaster.
Hello. Yes. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you here, Larry. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we want to talk about, I think we'll start with some invisible damage, right? How parents might be traumatizing their kids without even realizing it. In your experience, what are some of the common ways that well-meaning parents handle and mishandle emotional processing of divorce during the divorce process with their kids?
All right, sure. There's, aside from, of course, the more, dare I say, malicious dealings, you're right. Parents do a lot of things unknowingly that are traumatizing to kids. Simple things like whenever the other partners mention a roll of the eyes, which tells the kid that all right, that person now is excommunicated, and we shouldn't talk about him or her, and so on. Things like that. Limiting their contact, removing pictures in the house, even gifts that they may have given the child at one time or another, and so on. In other words, trying to almost erase that person from their lives. Excuse me. Things like, again, not purposefully, as the child is about to leave for, let's say, their visitation or their time with the other parent, saying, all right, goodbye. I'm really going to miss you. It's going to be hard, and so on. I hope everything's going to be okay. Sending messages like that you better watch out. Things aren't really good there, and I'm going to just be sitting here all alone, and so on. And so that makes the child feel, right, should I be going? Am I leaving this person alone? And so on. Other things
Larry,
that
Larry, I just want to pause for a second. Is there a clown car going by your location right now?
I put my phone so far away. Okay, it stopped. It's my phone. I'm sorry. I have it in the other room.
Okay, it's a good ringtone.
Yes, right. Okay, I apologize.
No
So,
worries.
Larry, on that exact topic, though, where, a couple things you said is advice we give to clients and is we bring up in court whenever we're talking about a parenting plan is, do you have any, because in Florida, check your local jurisdiction, but in Florida, one of the factors that a court has to consider is, do you put your needs or your child's needs ahead of your own? Which one's coming first? And under that factor, we'll ask our clients, do you have any pictures of your former, your co-parent around the house? And it is shocking how many other clients don't have the pictures up. And when we submit pictures of a child's room, we always make sure the picture of the co-parent is within the picture.
Yep.
And the really great clients will, if possible, when they're at events together, they'll take pictures of the other parent with the child and send them to the other parent, and then put them on those frames that are electronic, where
Yeah,
the
like those aura
pictures
frames.
rotate through. So
Yeah.
not only do you get like the one picture when the baby was born or stuff along the way, you get updated photos. And it's just good parenting. It's good for your kid, and it's great in court.
There's a I don't know, Seth, I'm going to drop some Latin on you, and I know that makes you very uncomfortable when I'm the one dropping Latin. Have you ever heard of this concept of damnatio memoriae? Anybody? This could be a great Jeopardy question.
Well, memoria sounds like memory.
Okay. And
Or memorial,
damnatio?
yeah.
Say that word again, Pete.
Damnatio.
That's damn shit I want to forget.
That's exactly what it is. This is an ancient Roman tradition, believe it or not, of condemnation of memory. When usually a senator, somebody in high power, would do something cancel-worthy, right? Something not honorable, they would go about gouging out their faces from statues and coins and any other places to make sure they're forgotten. And you can look at these wonderful old, bits of statuary in museums, and you'll see entire faces that have been carved out. That's what this feels like. There is we've talked about some dear friends that have just recently gone through a divorce on the show. And in the past, you go over to the original home, all of the family pictures are gone. And it surprises me a little bit to hear you say that is subversively damaging, that this idea of condemning the past memory is something that can be damaging to kids.
This brings up a very important issue that actually comes before these questions, and that is, what does divorce look like to the child?
Yes.
Of course, it depends on their age range, obviously. But in general, what it does for the child is it basically turns their world upside down. Many of them weren't aware that divorce was imminent. What do they have to compare it to? As far as they were concerned, they had the best mom in the world and the best dad in the world, and they had the best marriage in the world, because, of course, they knew no difference. Now, unless ridiculous things were going on, like pots and pans maybe being thrown on a regular basis, all right, maybe they got a hint. But when this happens, everything, frankly, is really turned around. You can't refer positively to the other person. The best person and the best dad in the world, at least that you thought, is now being disparaged, and vice versa. So all these things now are literally blowing the child's mind. Also, as is typical, when dad leaves the house, the child is going to ask two important questions. One, what did I do that was wrong? Most kids feel like they're to blame. Not that anyone tells them so, but that's a kid's usual thought. And two, if dad is divorcing mom and he's leaving the house, he must be divorcing me as well. So these are some of the things that are going on in kids' minds. And to them, it's like, black is white, round is square, up is down, and so on. It really is crazy. And then what happens sometimes to complicate things, due to finances or whatever, now the kid's got to move and change schools and lose friends. I mean, how many things can we do to these poor souls to traumatize them?
Oh, we can add a few in there,
Yeah, we
Larry.
can
I've
figure it
seen
out,
a lot
Larry.
of cases.
Yeah, Yes. Well, I've mentioned a few, of course,
Yeah.
already about making them feel uncomfortable about leaving, of course, and taking away the pictures and so on. On the other hand, some parents will make the mistake of you, particularly if the child is above 10 or so, of using the child as a confidant.
Yep, we
Okay.
say that to our clients all the time, Larry.
Yeah.
You're still the parent. Don't make them your best friend.
Yeah, right. But that puts the kid in a very odd situation. They'll accept it, of course, because they like the comfort and the contact. But then when the parent switches now, to now, okay, now go make your bed. It's like, wait a minute, I was just a minute your peer and your equal and your best friend, and now you're telling me to go make my bed. That doesn't
Yeah, let kids
work.
be kids.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's
Seth,
a good
how
bumper
often
sticker. I like
how
that.
it is. How often does this happen, Seth, when in your experience when parents are intentionally or unintentionally weaponizing their kids in court?
If you're in court on a parenting plan, it happens frequently.
Yeah.
So when you added the words in court, I'm like, well, yeah, that's where it's going, right?
Sure.
And what happens, especially in the modern age, if you are making your child your confidant, as Larry points out, I call it your best friend, there's going to be a lot of inappropriate text messages between you and your child, teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
That is bad. And it is both ways. It is mom making a daughter the best friend, it's dad making a son, or all of a sudden dad's letting his little girl like do anything she wants, right? Like it really changes quickly. And you have to maintain that role as parent, and you are there for your children aren't there for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's not forget what often happens in these circumstances is fairly shortly after the separation, uh, in comes somebody new.
Right.
In fact, that new person may have been the cause of the original separation in the first place, in some cases. But what this does for the child now is, now wait a minute, looks like mom or dad are replaceable. It's like I've got Legos for parents, as I used to say, and we do that to our kids very often.
And not only
Some,
does that get introduced usually very quickly and too soon, um, with no notice to the other parent.
Sure.
So I always tell people, you're going through a divorce. You're going to feel like you're under a microscope. So if you want to get out there in the dating world, do it on the DL. Keep it down low. Don't get out there on all the apps. And let me tell you, I've used these things in court against parents because they're saying, like, I want more time with my kid. And I'm like, well, you didn't show up at the kid's concert at school. And I find out you were on a date.
How does
So
that demonstrate what you're trying to get in court?
exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens is, it really, unless it was for work, it kind of doesn't matter where you were, but there's a little more sting to the court, I think, when you're like, oh, and you're on a date.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, hey, I was caring for my elderly mother, right? Like,
Right.
it's a little different.
So keep it in the family is what you're saying. As long as
Yeah.
it's in the family, you've got an excuse.
Yeah, great, Pete. Well,
Well,
way to
I-
go.
I
There's
wanna-
criminal
I-
statutes for that, but we won't deal with that today.
So we're talking about the things that destabilize the kid's emotional well-being. How should we be thinking for people who are listening and wondering? Okay, I know all the ways I could break my kids during the divorce process. How do I help maintain a sense of stability and security for children during a divorce? What are some of the things we can do?
well, to begin with, we need to let the child know that this is about to happen. In fact, in my book, I talk a fair amount about that. Again, it depends on the age, obviously. but to let them know that things aren't working well, and that next week, something like that. You don't say 2 months from now, because then the kid's going to be thinking about it for a very long time. Is today the day? Is today or tomorrow the day?
Right.
And so forth. One, and answer those two important questions that I talked about before. That Dad is not divorcing you if he's the one who's leaving and so forth. He's divorcing me. Well, that doesn't mean you're not going to be able to see him, and so on and so forth. And this is a big one. You had nothing to do with this. Okay, it is not your fault. And really stress that. And then become aware of some of these things that we've talked about. Be open to the other parent having contact. Ensure that you only speak in a positive manner about him or her. Things like that. Not roll your eyes, as I said. Not make it appear like your heart's being torn out of your body as the child is going to go to the other home. Things of that. In fact, encourage that. Those are and of course, if at all possible, of course, keep the other environment the same. If not the same residence, the same neighborhood, so the child can keep his or her friends and stay in his or her school.
And we've talked about that before, Pete, where, hey, if you can get the same mattress, get the same pillow, make it feel like the child's sleeping in the same bed, even if it's in a different room. When you're taking your child and dropping them off and there's the exchange, it should be, you're going to have fun. And I'm going to miss you. Well, I'm going to miss you too, but I'm more excited that you're going to have fun with dad or have fun with mom. And those are the conversations, because ultimately, if you're with me, you're going to miss dad. If you're with dad, you're going to miss me, and it's going to make you sad. Or you could be happy that you're with dad and be happier you're with me. And so you want to be happy all the time or sad all the time. And when phrased like that, especially with little kids, they're going to pick happy. And when something good happens, have them call or text or take a picture and send it to the other parent. And eventually that will get reciprocated. And if not, you're still doing right by your kid.
I want to ask a question about the developmental stages of kids and how it relates to how you treat them as a parent going through divorce and how you treat them as an attorney, right? My assumption is we're talking about kids probably, under 10, under 12. What happens when they get a little bit older and they start demanding a little bit more agency in the process? They start feeling like, hey, my parents are going through something. They're trying to shield me from it. I deserve more transparency as a member of this family. When their identity and ego kind of step up, how do you handle slightly older kids?
That does become problematic at times, because remember, if you're talking about teens, what's their number one objective? Spending time with mom or dad? I don't think so. And so often you have the situation where they don't want to go to the other party on every other weekend, because what that does is cut deeply into their social life. It's not that they don't want to spend time with dad necessarily, but their social life takes prominence. So those are problems. Plus, of course, they speak their mind. Many times they're angry, and so on, and they'll let you know, and so forth. So
Sure.
It's
and on that, Pete, I think kids of that age, it's good for them to discuss their schedules. Not when are you going to see mom, like what's going on in your life. You're going to be with mom and dad 50% of the time. Let's figure out a schedule that works. That is not involving them in the litigation. So it's a fine line, right? And to maintain the flexibility, which should be on both ends, right? And always remembering that your job as a parent is to give your kids wings. And so when they have the social activity on your weekend, then you let them go. You don't keep them back to hang out with you where they're going to be resentful. Like, go enjoy it.
Just
And
because you've missed them so much on their off time with your
that's right. Now,
partner.
maybe you say, look, the party's starting at what time? 7. Is it okay with you on your schedule if, and let's say it's a non-driving child, like 15?
Okay.
Like, can we go out to dinner first? And I promise to have you there by 7:30. Like,
Sure.
you can do those, but then you're talking about their lives, their schedule, and how this is all going to relate to them. What you don't talk about is, well, this is why mom and dad are getting a divorce, right?
Yeah.
Or this is what you want
That
your
is a very
schedule to be,
critical
right?
point.
How so?
So speak about that,
That
doctor.
that really okay. That is really important. Glad you brought it up. And I used to run into that all the time, where there would be a party or an event of some kind that is on the other person's time, and now we have a problem. Of course, obviously, if we're thinking in terms of what's best for the kid, we let the kid attend this. But if you have parents who are fighting with each other, no, then there's a fight over, can that kid go to that party or go to that event or whatever. And clearly, that's the kind of stuff that really is upsetting.
Oh, and here's
Uh,
another one, Pete, that I find just fascinating. 10-week summer. Mom gets 5 weeks, dad gets 5 weeks.
Okay.
The kid for years has gone to 1 week of sleepaway camp.
Who loses the week?
That's how it gets framed. That's how it gets framed. Right?
Yeah.
And here it is. And like, let's just add to it. It's the summer camp where the parents met as camp counselors in college. Like, they both support it, right? They both support it. So how are
Yeah.
you going to deal with that?
Yeah.
And inevitably, and this is just preparing your client when you go to court and say, yeah, judge, I think it should be 1 week. 1 year it comes out of mine, the next year it comes out of his, or you just say, judge, I'll take the hit on that every week because it's so important to them. And then who's the one putting the child ahead of their own needs?
Right. 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 If you're going to fight about anything, fight about who's the most gracious and
Right.
generous in the process.
That's right.
Well, and that kind of leads to that question of like what happens? How does the court look at it when you bring your kid's agency as a reaction to your divorce into the courtroom, right? When you claim my former spouse is not being gracious enough, and now the kid's being dragged in as a motive to fight about. And this is something we've talked about and around on the show in the past, how much baggage you're piling into that kid's future emotional suitcase by making them share responsibility in your divorce, and you don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah, as we're saying here, uh, clearly the parent who is more focused on what is in the best interests of the child is manifesting the best parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a contest to see who's the best parent. It's all about the what's best for the child.
Right,
So
right.
um,
Over the course of your work, can you reflect a little bit on what it looks like, what an adult child of divorce looks like, who was in youth, I'll say, a victim of a high conflict divorce, a contentious divorce? How do kids carry that on in their lives?
well, they do certainly, and they're This is tough to study because you're not dealing with white mice, where you can put them in
Yeah.
treatment, different treatments. But the Wallerstein study back in the 70s or 80s studied a couple of hundred of divorced families and kids, and clearly what showed is that kids from divorce are more likely to divorce themselves. Well, if anything, they've been through it, and it's tough,
Yeah.
but you can survive it,
Sure.
and so on. Yeah, I don't know if it makes them more wary or not. But I really wish parents would be more careful about vetting their partners to begin with. But
Yeah.
That is an
that's another
entirely
podcast.
different podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
We're on
Like-
the back end of the relationship, not the
Right,
front.
exactly. One other, excuse me, one other area that I'd like to bring up is when the kid returns from from the other parent.
Oh, that's when you get to ask them everything they did and quiz them.
Yes, right.
Sure.
The interrogation. Yeah,
Yes, big bright light comes down. It's awesome.
yeah, the interrogation.
Do we
Let
need
me
to
turn-
pause for a phone?
Turn it. I'm sorry. Yeah, the interrogation, and so on.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of spying as well. So what's this about you watching TV on a bigger TV? You mean to say that Dad has a big TV now?
Oh, sure.
Well, then maybe his child support needs to be upgraded a bit. Not just what you're thinking. So, and what else? Oh, and Dad's getting a new car. Oh, and so on. So it puts the kids again uh, in that loyalty squeeze that we talk about, where the kid is like, who am I supposed to be loyal to here?
Yeah, and the other part on that, Pete, is I advise clients like there's no secrets at mom's house. There's no secrets at dad's house. And the only secret is if we have a surprise gift for dad. And you can tell him that too. Like,
You're
and you
right.
make a little game out of that. But other than that, there's no secrets. So if they want to ask you, you're not going to say, and kids will say this, Dad said, I can't tell you this. Mom said, I'm not allowed to share this with you.
Yep, right.
So,
And you just feel twice.
right.
Yeah,
And what happens
right.
is the kid is giving information, right, which is more harmful than the actual information itself. Right.
Right. Right.
So,
If I might, I'd like to share one very quick story
please,
that
absolutely.
that I sticks out. Uh, this was a contentious divorce, so that's almost repetitive. But and one of the issues that, in fact, was brought to the court was Dad bringing the kid home late on Sunday, too late, way past the assigned time. And the judge, warned the father and so on. Okay, so now Dad and the kid, and he's like 11, 12 or so. Dad and the kid are out and they're having a good time and so forth, but now he's late. Once again, he's late. They're driving home and so forth. And Dad gets on the phone, dials it, hands the phone to the kid, and says, "Tell Mom we're going to be late." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now the kid's talking to me about this 2 days later in session, and he said, "I didn't know what to say." So Mom answers, and he says, "Mom, it's Scott. Dad says we're going to be late." Now, okay, mom's upset and so forth, but she's talking to the kid, but she now says, your father, blah, blah, and so on. And this
Yeah.
poor kid, as he's telling me, is absolutely crumbling, breaking down, and saying, I didn't know what to do and who to say, but, and so on. So it's things like that. You know. Meanwhile, we expect that kid to come home and do his homework and do an essay and
Of
do all the
course.
other
Right,
things that they're
right.
supposed to
From
do.
Yeah.
from the unstructured parent that can't get them there in time.
Exactly.
Right. That's
Well,
why
you
judges in Florida got tired of Sunday night exchanges,
Right.
because that
Mhm.
exact scenario. That's why they turned them to overnights. Don't
this
drop your kid off
I,
late, no dinner, unstructured, get the
yeah,
homework
right.
done. Science project is due the next day. Doesn't make any sense.
This
But the
this
good
actually
doctor wrote a whole book about this, right?
and this is exactly the transition I want to make, because you just described a scenario where I feel like it may be a challenge to live up to the title of your book, Love Your Child More Than You Hate Your Ex, what every divorced parent needs to know. Uh, I, I I feel like that story has to be somewhere at the root of why you chose to write this book.
Partly, yeah, absolutely. Well, I conducted over well close to 100 custody evaluations in my time, and I was also an assigned parenting coordinator, where after the fact, I'd work with these couples and try to get them to cooperate, if you will, for the sake of the child. Yeah, ironically, many parents were telling me, I can't wait to get divorced so I can be rid of him or her, and so on. And I said, no, 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 it's not going to work that way. You're not getting rid of him or her. In fact, if anything, you're going to have probably more contact than you might have had before. It is something that we have to be aware of. And it's important. If you bring kids into the world and you decide to divorce, it's your responsibility to make that as easy as possible for them. It's not an easy thing to do, but
Yeah.
to be at least aware of many of the things that we've talked about here.
I wonder, Seth, when you think about a, a conversation like this with your clients, at what point are you, reminding them quite literally, you're demonstrating that your hate for your ex is the most important thing in your life right now?
Yeah, it's really well put, Pete. The conversations we have regarding this is you never get that time back that you have with your kid.
Yeah.
You're paying me to go to court and fight for more time. But so many parents waste the time that they have during the divorce process. And you're so angry at your former spouse. The way you deal with that is you invite them in to the time that you have with your kid by complaining about them, by mentioning them, by degrading them. And that all takes away from the time that you're asking me to fight for. So if you want more time with your kid that's quality time, don't mention your other spouse unless it's positive. Put down your cell phone. Because when you go to that performance or to that athletic event or that extracurricular, it is inevitable that your child will look at you the only time that you're looking at your phone.
Of course,
I mean, you've just sunk that. So
because you earned karma more than anything else.
turn it off. But
Yeah.
that's the conversation I have is
Yeah.
don't invite them in.
Yeah. Well, and that's the key lessons out of this book. I mean, some of the things that really stick out, right? This whole idea, this reminder is a blunt reminder. It's like, look, you put your child first every time. Your divorce is yours. It's between you. Parenting will always be first and foremost about the child, not about you and your relationship with your ex. And as you already said, like, divorce doesn't end your parenting, right? It doesn't end your work together as a couple. And that reminder, it's never too late to learn these lessons, to be reminded of our own weaknesses. So, well done. Thank you, Larry, for hanging out with us today. We sure appreciate your time and your wisdom, and encourage everybody to go check out this book. It is timeless as it is timely. Please check it out. Love Your kids more than you hate your ex. Link in the show notes. Larry, are you up to anything? You're retired recently, but are you up to anything good you want to share?
Well, I stay pretty active. I speak on this topic to the community. I also speak to mental health associations on practice development kinds of things. In fact, I've even spoken to a couple of attorney groups on effective marketing based on how I, in fact, enhanced my son's practice, if you will, and so on. And I coach young therapists. Also, I'm a yoga instructor, and so I do that.
I just want to point out that when he pointed that, he really looked more at Pete in the camera than me.
That's not nice. That's
I
not a
was
nice thing.
speaking the
You
truth.
just did. It is not nice.
I was speaking the
I'm going to
truth.
remember that. I'm putting another notch on the wall.
Thanks for being on the show, Doctor.
We sure appreciate you, Larry. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We sure appreciate your time and attention. Don't forget, you can head over to howtosplitatoaster.com and push the button that says, hey, I got a question for Seth. Send it in. It'll be on our list for our next Listener Questions episode. On behalf of Seth Nelson, America's favorite divorce attorney, and Dr. Larry Waldman, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll see you next week right back here on How to Split a Toaster, a divorce podcast about saving your relationships.